We usually think about how much we rest by counting hours we're switched off. Lately, I've noticed people are chatting more about how sleep feels. Like, what's the texture of your rest? Remember when sleep was like a thick velvet curtain? Eyes closed, curtain down, morning. Awake versus asleep, clear as day. But that curtain can get thin over time, like linen. The world peeks through easier. You're asleep, but you hear the house or feel the room get colder. It feels like we're not as deep in sleep as before. We're stuck in the middle, not fully in it, not really out. That can be annoying, like we missed the point. We say, "Oh, I was just restless," and brush it off. Since it's not a big deal, we don't talk about it. It's just a weird thing that happens as we age, right? But lots of folks notice this change, even if they don't say it out loud. We don't have the words for something that's not a crisis. If we aren't exhausted and nothing hurts, we stop talking. But noticing this texture change is important. How we spend our nights is changing. It's not a loss, just a different vibe during quiet time. When rest feels lighter, our thoughts mix with what's around us. If you're waiting for that old velvet curtain, this can bug you. It's a small shift. We don't need to decide what it means or if we should do anything about it. It's just a different way to be still. Maybe you'll think about it next time you wake up feeling the floor or your blanket more. Or maybe you'll forget about it. Either way, it's there. A quiet thing to think about, or not. That weird feeling when you half wake up in the dead of night. It's like a strange silence falls over everything. People are saying waking up at 3 or 4 a.m. just feels different now. It's not always a jump scare or a reaction to a noise. Sometimes you're just awake, lying there in the dark. And then this quiet tension starts to creep in. Not just because you're awake, but because it's not how you think a normal night should be. We got this idea stuck in our heads that sleep should be one solid chunk, and if it's not, something's wrong. So you're there, staring at the ceiling, waiting for real sleep to come back, like waiting for a train that's late. It feels like you're failing some kind of test. You start watching the clock, counting down the hours, and suddenly the quiet in the room feels heavy, full of that expectation. We call it a bad night, but most times it's not the being awake that bothers us. It's trying to force ourselves back to sleep when our body is already done with it for the moment. Some people describe it as a lonely feeling, but it doesn't have to be. We don't talk about these hours much because they feel like wasted time, like a mistake in the schedule that we should ignore. We've been told that being awake when it's dark out is a problem we need to fix, so we miss what that time actually is. We're so busy stressing about not sleeping that we don't see how clear our thoughts are or how the house sounds when it's totally still. We treat it like an empty space, something to fill with frustration or to quickly go back to sleep. But hey, why are we so stuck on this 8-hour sleep thing? Life changes, so your sleep might change too. If we stop seeing these nighttime wake-ups as our body failing, the silence sounds different. It's not a deadline we're missing anymore, just part of the day. Maybe your mind is just taking a breather, or maybe it's just a pause in a bigger story. You don't need to decide now if this is just a phase or a new normal. Just notice the difference between the sleep you think you should be having and the rest you're actually getting. Keep that in mind. It might help the next time you're awake in the middle of the night. Or maybe, after a while, you'll stop worrying about it and it'll just fade away. Ever notice how the quiet of the night can feel different sometimes? Like when you're lying there and time feels kind of stretchy, a lot of people start noticing things more. It's like the world gets quieter and you get more tuned in. You might be lying in bed, hearing the house creak as it cools off, or the far-off buzz of a streetlight. Some people say it's like they've lost a layer of skin and are paying more attention to everything around them than when they were younger. It's strange, since it's not like you're really awake. You're resting, but you're still taking things in. You might hear the wind in the trees or a neighbour's car door shut down the street. Before, you might have slept right through that, but now it seems louder. We usually just say we're light sleepers or easily disturbed, like it's a bad thing that we can't block out the world. We brush it off as annoying and see it getting in the way of sleep. We don't talk about this much, since it's hard to explain that it's not the sounds that bother us, but that we're hearing them at all. This can feel like you're losing privacy, like the outside world is crashing your personal space. But it's not that simple. The awareness isn't always a sleep problem, but more like a change in what you can handle. The attention dial turns a little, and you notice more. People usually feel they should fight this by blocking things out or going back to being totally out of it. Still, there's something to be said for just noticing this new thing with your surroundings. If you stop trying to push the world away, you might realize the sensitivity just shows how your body deals with time. It's not a bad sign. It just means the line between you and the world is thinner. You can hear the night sounds without thinking they're interruptions. They're like the soundtrack to a different kind of rest. Whether you keep feeling this way or it changes is something to think about later. For now, it's enough to realize your rest comes in layers, and sometimes those layers get thinner. Maybe this will help the next time you hear your house making noises in the dark. Or maybe you'll never think about it again. But it's just another part of your world now, something you can notice when it happens. Ever notice when you're lying in bed listening to the house creak or the wind rustle the trees, you start thinking about when the quiet of night really kicks in? For lots of folks, the line between day and night is getting blurrier. It's like stuff that happened in the afternoon is still hanging around, even after dark. It often feels like we lug all the energy from our busy day right into the night, making our rest feel more like a reflection of how the day went instead of its own separate thing. You might have had days where you didn't do much, but the second your head hits the pillow, your brain is racing. Or, after being out and about all day, your sleep feels broken up because your brain is still processing everything you saw and did. Some people say it's like an echo. We usually see sleep as something separate, but it's more like we're dragging this invisible string behind us, with everything we touch during the day still tied to it. We don't talk about this much because it's pretty subtle. It's tough to explain how a quick chat at lunch that didn't quite end right, or the late sunset, can mess with how we rest hours later. Because we don't see these things clearly, We usually think of sleep as totally separate from everything else. If we can't sleep, we blame the bed or the room, instead of thinking about how the whole day added up to our restless night. Things are not always that simple. Usually, the day and night are connected. Thinking about this doesn't mean we need to change anything about our afternoons. It's just seeing the whole day as one thing. When we get that the day doesn't stop the second we close our eyes, we don't stress as much about having the perfect night. Instead, we see that our rest is part of our life, not just a pause button. It lets us look at a restless night not as some kind of failure, but as the day still whispering in our ear. Whether this changes how you feel about your nighttime routine or just sticks with you for a bit is all up to you. Maybe you'll think about it on a quiet walk, or maybe it'll fade away as soon as you're done reading this. It's just another way to explain why the night sometimes feels so full of the day. Once we start seeing day and night as one continuous thing, it's funny how we start watching our lives differently. A lot of folks realize they start paying closer attention to how they rest, almost like a gardener keeping an eye on the weather. You might catch yourself clock watching, noting the exact moment you woke up, or trying to figure out how many good hours you got. It's really human to want to measure stuff, like if we collect enough info, we might finally get how our nights really work. But there's a small but real difference between keeping track of our sleep and just noticing it. Some say that tracking, counting hours, comparing nights, searching for patterns, can bring on a new kind of stress. It can feel like we've turned ourselves into a project that needs constant checking. We're like someone checking the books, searching for errors in our rest. If we see we weren't asleep, we count it as a fail. When we're like this, our minds aren't resting. They're working, even in the dark, trying to see if we're succeeding at sleeping. It's not always that clear, though, because noticing isn't the same as judging. A good amount of people see that there's another way to be during those quiet times, not as a checker, but as someone just watching. It's the part of us that can lie in the dark and just think, okay, I'm awake right now, without immediately wondering what it means or how to change it. It's a nicer way to just be. Rather than questioning, it becomes a quiet way of seeing what's really going on in the moment, instead of what we wish was happening. We don't often talk about this change in how we see things because it seems so small, almost not there. In a world that cares about results and getting better, the idea of just watching feels like doing nothing. However, when we stop needing to check every night, we might find the worry of being awake starts to feel a little lighter. The night stops being a puzzle to solve and just becomes a bit of time. We're not trying to work out the dark anymore, we're just in it. This change from checker to watcher isn't something you have to reach, and it's not a trick you have to get good at. It's just something to keep in mind, a different way to look at what you're going through. You might find that this idea gives you a bit of space the next time you're adding up the hours until morning. Or you might think that how you're tracking things now is good for you. It's just something to remember, something that might matter in a month or a year, or maybe never. It's just there, a quiet choice instead of always measuring. Once you stop obsessing over how you sleep and just notice it, you start to see all sorts of things you've considered. We've talked about how sleep can get lighter, how the quiet of the night can feel different, and how you might be more aware of what's going on around you. A lot of folks notice that when they quit trying to call these changes problems, they find something way more subtle. It's like realizing that sleep isn't some fixed skill you learned years ago, but a living thing inside you that keeps changing as you do. Some people call it making peace with things. It often feels like you're finally letting the night be what it is, instead of what you remember. We tend to have this old idea of sleep in our heads, like it's always deep, quiet, and never interrupted. And we use that to judge how we sleep now. But, like we've seen, it's more like a conversation that changes as you get older. It might get lighter, maybe a little broken up, and more tied to what you do during the day. It's not always comfy or what you'd expect, but it's a real picture of where you are right now. Just noticing these little changes doesn't mean you have to figure everything out. You don't have to decide if they're good or bad, or if they even matter. It's enough to just have words to describe what's happening. To say that sleep feels different, or that things have changed. Naming it helps ease that nagging feeling of not knowing. When you can talk about what you're seeing, you don't feel like you're lost in the dark. You're just dealing with something a bit different. That doesn't mean the questions vanish. A lot of folks still lie awake thinking about their sleep. But maybe now, those questions don't have to feel so heavy. They can be part of a bigger, calmer sense of yourself. It's like being comfortable in your own skin, even when your body's doing things that feel a little strange. This way of noticing things is yours alone, and only you can really know what your own quiet feels like. Whether these thoughts stick with you tonight or fade as you get back to your day is totally fine. There's no rush to do anything with this stuff. It's just a bunch of thoughts about something we don't often talk about. Maybe, someday, you'll tell someone about one of these little changes, or maybe you'll just keep it to yourself. It's just something to think about, a chill way to look at the night if you ever feel like seeing it a little differently.